So today we're going to talk about identifying character traits. And before we go any further, I think it's important that we establish what a character trait is. So we have a character. We can talk about how she looks, how she behaves, what she does in her spare time. For example, if I was a character in a book, we could say, I have black hair, I'm short, I have brown eyes, I'm talking very slowly right now. We can say all of these things about our character. What authors like to do is present us this kind of information in two different forms. So we have direct and indirect characterization. So direct characterization is pretty much anything that directly tells us what a character is or what their goals are. So we can say, for example, Bob really likes baseball, he has blonde hair, blue eyes, he's really tall. On the other hand, if we wanted to talk about Bob indirectly, instead of saying that he loves to play baseball, we can have a whole chapter devoted to Bob playing baseball, really getting into it with his friends, just playing baseball all the time. So we don't have to say Bob loves baseball. We can read about Bob loving baseball. So these are two ways that authors like to give us characterization, and they really use a mixture of them when they're talking about their characters. So I think one important thing for us to do is, instead of me talking to you about a hypothetical Bob, we can actually look in our reading, The Outsiders, and look at some of our characters. So if we look at our reading on page 21, one paragraph actually has a lot of information on 4 different characters that we're following throughout this book. So we have I, which is Pony Boy speaking in the first person. We also have Dallas, who also goes by Dally later on in this paragraph. And we have 2 girls, and they're not named just yet, but they go by Marcia and Cherry later on. So first, let's talk about Marcia. So Marcia has a couple of descriptors right here. She's described as not their kind. She's described as tough looking, 16 or 17 years old. She has short dark hair, and she's pretending not to hear Dally. So the first 4 ways we talk about Marcia are really direct. It's just describing her appearance. And the last one is how she's interacting with Dally. Next you have Dally. So the descriptors used for Dally are more indirect. So he's putting his feet up on a chair, he's getting impatient, he's winking at our protagonist. And these are all giving us this picture of Dally as kind of a rowdy or upbeat, he needs to move around kind of person without saying these specific words about Dally. Lastly, I want us to talk about Cherry because she has a lot going for her in this paragraph. We have direct and indirect characterization going on regarding Cherry. So we have that she's not their kind, she's tough looking, she's dressed really nice, she's 16 or 17. All these things are things she has in common with Marcia. But now we have that she has red hair, so we have one way to take her a step away from Marcia. She's a different person. But now we have actions, how she's interacting with Dally. So she's either mad or scared, Pony Boy doesn't know. She's sitting up straight, she's chewing hard on her gum, and she's giving Dally a cold stare. So what we're getting at here is that Pony Boy is confused about how she feels about his brother, but all he knows is that this is how she's interacting with him. So as readers, we can find out more what this means, what Cherry's really thinking when she's interacting with Dally. So this is one paragraph of our reading, and I have to say that we have a lot of information, especially about Cherry, but we do have some information about Dally and Marcia just from this paragraph. And one thing that's really important is this is just one paragraph. But if I were to give you this whole book and ask you, let's talk about Pony Boy, let's talk about Dallas, you'd need to go through here and find that information. And that in itself can be very daunting. So what I'd like to give you guys is an acronym that you can remind yourself of when you need to look for just different characterization traits. So we first start with D, which is for dialogue, A for appearance, and B is for behavior. So we have DAB, which spells dab. So I'll just go over it really quick, and then if you don't mind repeating after me so I can make sure that we all know what it is. So D is for dialogue, what a character says. A is for appearance, described or implied. B is for behavior, their actions and interactions. Rhonda, Tom, would either of you mind starting with D is for?
D is for dialogue, what a character says.
A is for appearance, described or implied.
B is for behavior, their actions and interactions.
Okay, so we have dialogue, appearance, behavior. This all spells
Dab.
Okay, any questions?
Nope.